Hi, I am Michael Bean, and this is your myfreeactingclass.com lesson for Tuesday, September 1st. Today we are talking to Cassandra Ebner, who is a stunt performer and an actress and somebody who has been making her own work and putting it out into the world for a long time. And so she's one of the only performers that we've had on here who's been very successful at creating her own content. And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping we can get her to talk about today. Let me show you a little bit of Cassandra's awesomeness. So here's Cass's IMDb profile. Ray is Canada's own lovable, nerdy, multi-talented star. Cassandra Ebner has worked incredibly hard, blah, blah, blah. Kelowna, work ethics, favorite movies. People often write their own bios, or sometimes their reps write their bios, so one of the things about writing a bio is saying only the truth, but presenting it in the best possible light. There's like an art to writing a bio, and basically you have to put the Canadian part of you on hold, because you're like, okay, I'm just going to talk about how amazing I am, like just for a second. There's a whole bunch of stunt credits here. Stunt performer, stunt double, 20 episodes on the 100, Batwoman, Flash, Arrow, so much stuff. And then there's a bunch of actress credits here too, looks like a couple of different roles, on the 100. We heard Richard Bradshaw talk about stunt actors. Then I pulled up the first little bit of her stunt demo reel just for fun. Like, we could watch the rest. I'm sure it's all just that good. And then also a trailer for Life XP, and maybe she's made amazing things for herself since then that I just don't know about, and we can ask her. But this is the last project that I knew a bunch about, that Cass made for herself to star in, and it's been extremely well received.
Hi again. Video game testing? It's called beta testing. But I've never played a video game in my life. Oh!
Try and picture in your head the way you want something to look like, and that way when you do the game, you can make it look just a little cooler. Here's what we're gonna do. Hang back and don't die. Try that. It's all over the internet.
Wait, show my dad this you watch. He's your live streams all the time.
Technology isn't always bad.
It is always bad.
I would suggest not telling her about your new job. Again, as much.
Famous now.
Everyone is watching.
This is all way too much. Be the hero. Okay, cool. We got this.
Okay, Cass, you can stop plugging your ears and saying la 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 now. Right? Like, she looks pretty amazing on video. Like, this is somebody who has done a good job of like making content, and presenting herself extremely well. Also a skilled human. And thankfully she's really nice, so she's going to talk to us today. How's your audio?
I think I'm not muted.
Yep, no, we got you loud and clear.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
So I think I probably told you about this in the message, but it's a very mixed group. The folks who attend, the folks who watch, are like very mixed. We've got some kids as young as like 8, and then adults. We've got folks who have like a little bit of professional experience, and then folks who are like, oh my god, I don't know anything about this. How do I get in? So it's a wonderfully mixed group in terms of like who shows up and also who watches these on YouTube and social media.
Awesome.
And
Well,
so,
thank you for having me.
yay! We had Richard come and talk to us, I think, a week before last, and he talked a little bit about, you know, being a stunt performer, and stunt actor, and what it's like when he's sort of casting, or I don't know if you call it that, if you're a stunt coordinator, hiring, stunt performers. Can you talk, just for starters, like a little bit about your own journey, in terms of, uh, acting and stunts and, kind of getting started and what took you here?
Of course. I started doing YouTube when YouTube wasn't really a thing. So about like 15 years ago, when YouTube was new, I was like, what is this crazy awesome thing that like no one knows about? So I started making these YouTube videos and I got really into it and like got into editing when I was 13, and I was like, oh, I can make my own movies. I can do what I want to do right now from my own home, and like nobody needs to tell me that I can do acting. Like that was my creative outlet. And so I started making my own skits, doing silly little videos, and that kind of got me into the editing side of things and creating and making stories and doing skits, which kind of got me into shadowing with directors in my small town. Once I was shadowing them, another person got me in touch with another person, and I started acting in their movie, which I'm not going to name the movie because it's so embarrassing. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone I said that. And then after that, someone was like, if you want to do this seriously, which I was doing all the things that I could possibly do. Like I had my own editing company. I was shadowing and PAing for directors. I was doing free stuff on set and volunteering. They were like, if you want to do this seriously, you got to move to Vancouver. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm serious. Like, let's do this. So I moved to Vancouver right after I graduated. And I had just started seeing videos of stunt women online, and I was like, whoa, like this is a job. You can do the acting part and the performance, and you can also be the person who's like beating up bad guys. Like that's the stuff I grew up on. I want to do that. And so I fortunately had my dad had introduced me to a stunt coordinator that they actually lived together when they were like 18 in Edmonton, super small world. He was like, okay, go talk to this guy. So I had a meeting with him, and apparently I just found this out last year. The meeting was actually to deter me from doing stunts. So he was like, it's really hard. Like you'll probably like never get in, but you'll just keep trying. And it's going to be super hard. You can barely wear any pads. You can only wear like pretty much skirts and nothing else. And so I don't know if you're interested in Rife. I was like, yeah, like that's no problem. I play rugby. Like I do rugby acting, and then tell me all the other stuff and I'll start getting that. And he was like, okay. And so he told me all the steps to get into it. And then he was like, if you want to take this seriously, you need to make sure that like you're at these places training and like meet people. And I was like, okay. So I started training at all these gymnastics places. I was looking for an agent. I think it was a year later after I kind of started getting into the stunt stuff. But then I started meeting all these people, and they said, go here, go here. And I started learning all this stuff. And I had all the acting behind me, which wasn't something a lot of stunt performers had at the time. There's some that did, but not a ton. So when I got some of these skills that they wanted, like boxing and fights, and started doing fight scenes with people, I had this intensity that came from a real performance background. So if you were doing fights, I wasn't just like doing 1, 2, fight, which isn't a problem because people are amazing at that. But I was doing like 1, 2, fight, and then like being really into it. And so that kind of, I think, put me at least put me on to like the who's next in stunts kind of viewing. And so my first like actual stunt performance, which you saw in the video that he showed you, was me doing a stunt actor role as this girl who'd been drugged and got hit by a car. So that was like a really big stunt to do for your first time. And so it put me on the map for a bunch of people. And after that, I started getting calls and stuff like that. And then after that, I started making sure that I was doing the right things to try and be a better actor as well. So I was taking acting classes. I was getting an agent. And then I kind of got put into this category where I would sometimes go in for stunt actor roles, or I would go in for regular commercial roles. But then once more people saw that I was doing the stunt acting and the stunts, the acting and the stunts really well, I started getting put, casting would just contact me, or sometimes a stunt coordinator would be like, well, this is your girl. And then they would hire me without sometimes having to go through the casting route. So I've been very fortunate in different ways. And then after that, during all of that, obviously this is like a very long journey, just so you all know. It's not just like, and then she like got on the screen and then it was like this. It was like a slow going, like trying to keep up with the momentum and trying to keep yourself inspired and trying to keep yourself busy. Like it's not always busy. And so that's kind of where my own projects came in, where I wanted to keep myself motivated, excited for playing different characters or experimenting. And the best way for me to personally learn is by doing. So there's characters I want to play, so I start writing them into scripts, and then I'm like, oh, what happens if this person comes in and they have to go through these types of situations? So we expand. I expand upon the idea, or I talk about it with other people, and we collaborate to make something a little bit bigger, a little bit cooler, and I learned so much from that. And so I've made a couple big projects now, like Life XP. That one was my own personal sort of love for my nerdiness growing up. And so that's been my latest project, and it went very well. It went around the world and won awards, and I went to Cannes last year and got to pitch it to a bunch of people at Cannes MIP TV. So we were sitting there and we were like, oh my goodness, we're like where Cannes Film Festival is. And it was a pretty cool experience. So I hope that was like a good roundabout way to explain sort of my experience, but that's
yeah. And I mean,
the whole of it.
There's so many different pieces of that we could get people to ask questions about later.
Yeah.
And I want to leave some time for questions. But because we haven't had anybody talk about creating their own stuff, from this place of now, where like you started when you were 13, so you've got at least 10 years of making your own stuff now.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to younger you, or what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start doing that kind of thing for themselves now?
I think younger me was really wonderfully naive in that I didn't have to have the best quality, and I think I love that about younger me. Now, present me needs a certain standard, and I almost want to tell almost present me, especially if you're like somebody who's like, well, I see this thing and I see this quality and I want to make this. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to not put out the quality that you want to do right now. Make that gigantic story. See how you can make it happen. If it looks low budget, so what? Like, try to learn from these things. And I think for younger me, though, like I would say current me says, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because I know right now I'm super afraid to make mistakes. My standard is way too high. So I have to go back a bit and take advice from younger me. But now, if I was to give advice to younger me, is maybe see if you can get more people involved. I have a thing right now where where I was too afraid to ask people to get involved. I'm always scared of burdening other people. So having people excited to work on projects with you, even if it's your friends and they don't know what they're doing, that's okay. Make them be actors, or have some friends that like to do acting, but also don't let that bring you down if they aren't interested. Do a project that you can do by yourself if nobody's interested. It's a catch-22. Just don't stop yourself from creating, I think, is the biggest takeaway. Don't give yourself the excuses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there aside from like your own kind of wonderful, naive enthusiasm, is there anything else that you would say contributed to you not stopping from doing those things, right? Because you did it, like you made the things you wanted to make.
Yeah, I that's a good question. So what didn't stop me? What kept me going?
What kept you going?
I think it was what the story meant to me and what I thought it would mean to other people. So I put a bigger emphasis on the meaning behind the story I was trying to do. So it wasn't just about me having an awesome opportunity to act in something I wanted to act in. It was what I thought it would meant to the little girl in me and the little girls that would watch the show. So I was like, I'm an awkward human being, and I thought one day just I would be like Angelina Jolie and be this super confident, awesome woman who would like be totally cool in her skin. And then like as time has gone on, I'm still not that person. I'm doing stunts. I'm like doing all the things that I thought a confident human would be doing. But I'm not any more confident than the nerdy little girl who was like 7 and didn't know what to do with herself when she got into a crowd of people and started talking to them. So I wanted to make this super awkward character who like wasn't confident, that we could see she makes mistakes and she's still getting through it. And so the whole premise of the series that I made had a deeper meaning other than just what I wanted to do, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
The we're at the just about the 10-minute mark. We got 10 minutes left. So I could keep asking Cass questions for another hour. I'm totally happy to just keep chatting with her. Do you have specific questions that you want to ask Cass, so that you want to jump in now? So you can just like flail a hand around in the air, or in the participants window, I think you can find the like raise your hand function, and then we'll just see the little blue hand. It makes life super easy. Somebody have something that they want to ask about, whether it's something that how do you get viewers for your new YouTube channel?
That is such a good question. And honestly, I think everybody's trying to figure that out right now. It's such a different thing than it was 15, 20 years ago, or however long YouTube has been out now. It's the way I used to do it is honestly, it wasn't from a trying to create amazing content. It was like honestly from a place of like what's in right now. Like let's look at the trends. TikTok's really in. How can you make like a silly TikTok video? Like people search like whatever you think is popular to be searched right now, that's stuff I would make. But if you're creating content that you want people to get involved in the story and you're trying to make it relevant, then I would usually look up what people are kind of gravitating to. I find that like I've noticed things with web series at the beginning, sometimes there's more views on those, and it could also be because of good advertising, but I find that sometimes looking at what the titles are can be a lot where you can get a lot of your views. You can also experiment with also paying YouTube to put the captions in, and you can see YouTube put it out there. There's like a whole analytics thing that you can get into. So if you want to learn who's watching more of your videos, you can pay them to advertise it, and then you can see who's actually watching and responding to it. So there's also that. There's a lot of technical and also like just opinionated versions. Also collaborating, that was huge. Like if you know other YouTubers that are collaborating or that have like large followings and you're able to ask them to be in it, then you can cross promote each other. You can have feature one of your friends who does acting and is a YouTuber in your series that you want to do. There's lots of different ways. And if you look online, there's probably tons of ways that people tell you to promote things. If you also, one of my tips once upon a time ago is if you're like blind message someone who's only like a few hundred subscribers over you for being in your stuff, because I find that works better than trying to usually get the top person. But also don't be ashamed to message the top person, because you never know. Maybe they're like, yeah, I'm in Vancouver. Why not? I'll just come over and be in your thing for a few minutes or however long, hours or whatever.
Cool. Thank you. And thanks for the question, Melissa. Anybody else?
I'll try to make them concise. And much less rambling.
You don't have to be concise. You know, the reason that we want to talk to a real human is so that we get like the real messy this and sometimes the opposite, you know, and it wasn't perfect and while it happened with answers.
And again, all these are opinions. People will also have their opinions of what's worked for them, and also don't be afraid to ask people. Like just because there might be somebody with 10,000 or a million YouTube views, it doesn't hurt to message them and say, "What's one piece of advice you can give me to make my YouTube channel better?" And if they tweet that to you or email that to you, that's one extra piece of advice that's probably pretty valid.
Um, the especially if it's super specific, you know, so just I want to qualify the thing that Cass just said, just because I have a friend who's a podcaster, you know, and will in conversation with me just talk disparagingly about the people who like don't do the homework, you know, and who ask questions that like a sort of basic Google search could answer. You know, she's like, look, I know all of this stuff, but like, ask me something specific that's like really specific to my content, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise, you know, you're just saying, you know, do the work for me. Eve says, what do you do to give yourself more confidence? I know, isn't that such a good
Great
one?
question. That's a good question. Well, there's therapy. That one's also really been great for me. But if you can't go to therapy, I've read a lot of books on self-confidence growing up because my confidence meter and my empathy meter is kind of all whack sometimes. And so I find like some success books kind of give you like some of that, like, okay, how do other people work? And then you actually understand people a little bit more. And I think my understanding of people a little bit more allows me to be a little bit more confident, because I think my confidence is usually swayed by other people's actions. Because I'm like, oh, did I just say something wrong? Did I do this wrong? And so that's usually where it is for me. But if I find books, find books, read them. They'll inspire you and make you feel better.
Can I offer something there and just get your opinion on it, Cass? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few minutes ago, you said that, you know, I thought when I was 13 that like confidence looked this particular way. You know,
Yes.
that I would get there and I would just have it and it would be a thing.
Yeah, it's still not totally here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so um, the I would say that on camera, in particular, at least in my experience as a teacher, ease looks like confidence, and very
Yes.
often, even the performers who come across the most confident, if you talk to them privately, they're like, "Oh no, God, I was worried about my lines, and like I didn't know what I was doing." It's
Yeah.
it's just that they're only going to say that, you know, with the people who they really trust and they're safe with, especially if they're in the process of building a brand, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
their marketability and their ability to get work is sort of dependent on people thinking that they are super confident all the time. Like they're
Yeah.
only going to say that with their friends. You know, but a lot of the people I know who do really confident work, you know, they're still dealing with the same stuff, you know, that they were when they were 13 on the inside. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
just looks progressively more sophisticated on the outside, and they
And
have that ease in the work.
on adding on to that, that's what doing all these projects, being in front of the camera all the time, doing short films, hearing what my voice sounds like when I edit it, all these things like on camera, this is why I'm able to do these kinds of chats and not feel like, oh yeah, the camera's there. I used to do live shows. This is where I grew up. Like, this is no problem for me. But dealing with the real world's a different problem. But being in front of a camera, because I've done so many short films, it feels so much easier. I feel more at home when I'm on a camera. And that might not be for other people, but that's because of all the projects I've been doing.
That's fantastic, you know, Cass. And I think that points to like a really clear answer to your question, Eve. You know, which is connected to that Ira Glass video that we watched a week or two ago, which is that you just make a volume of work, and particularly right now where most people are home, you know, and there may not be as many opportunities to go and like, you know, Cass talked about being a PA or a production assistant, volunteering on other people's student films, independent films, doing anything she could to sort of be around film to get used to it. right now, one of the things you can do, you're doing right now, actually, by like doing this class and having to see yourself in that little thumbnail at the top and be like, oh,
And
that's
we
my
see
face.
you too.
There it is again. Oh gosh, my face. Ah, and then and then like year 2, you're like, hey, that's my face. And then like year 3, you're like, yeah, my face. Oh, and there's that thing. But so right now you're in the process of developing the ease and familiarity that will give you exactly what Cass is talking about, which is like, oh, right, I'm just used to this experience. It looks like confidence because it's familiar.
Mic drop.
Yeah. One of the things that's come up from a lot of different folks, Cass, is the importance of loving it. That like actors have talked about it, casting directors have talked about it. So what would you say are some of the things that have helped you like hold on to or like feed or support your love of this crazy thing that we're all doing?
Oh, that is such a great question. So relevant to my life right now. So I worked myself to the bone when it came to Life XP. And so I'm kind of like going through the post-traumatic aftershock of working so hard on something for 3 years. So I think what I'm learning right now is it's okay to take breaks. You're not a failure if you take breaks. And I think that's, maybe I'll change that answer in maybe a few years, ask me again on another one of these. But that's right now what I'm trying to remember, is that it's okay to step away and remind yourself what you do love about it. Because you don't want to be trying to do the grind and be like, well, why am I even doing this? It's not a good place to be. You want to come every day, I think you want to come to it and love it. And some of those days you don't, but taking a step away and giving yourself that space to be like, okay, now I'm ready to do it again. Now I'm ready to go to Michael's class and play again. That's the things that we should be doing.
So what are some of the things that you love about it, or that you remember loving about it, that you may discover?
That I remember. No,
you're great.
I love when you start discovering little things, like when you're breaking down your character and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize this. Like those little like moments where you realize the work you're putting in is actually working. And then you also being on camera, like the performing thing, as soon as the camera's on and I hear 3, 2, 1 action, I'm like, boom, committed. Like it is like another world for me. And that is one of the reasons why I love acting so much, and performing, and is that 3, 2, 1 action. I'm a different person. And then at the end of it, I love the filmmaking process, because then at the editing part, your performance, what you thought it was, can be totally different, or they can edit it totally different. And you're like, whoa, that is not what I was portraying, but it's fascinating that that's what they got out of it. And so I do love the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so I do love this industry. You just need to take breaks sometimes.
Yeah, yes. Anything that supports the love, I think, is good for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Melissa says, how can we get in touch with you? Is sharing your email or social media handle okay? Like where?
Yeah. I would say if we're posting this to the world, then I will put my social media stuff out there. But personally, if you guys would like to email me, you can. I can give you guys my email personally, and you guys can contact me that way. And Instagram or Facebook, you can find me Cassandra Ebner on Instagram. It's Cassandra.Ebner. On Twitter, it's Cassandra Ebner, all one word. And then you can find me on Facebook as well.
Okay, perfect. So it's Instagram, so none of you have to figure out how to spell her name.
Oh, I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you already did it. I'm supposed to be the techie person. Thank you.
No, you're taking your break right now. Remember?
Oh, yeah. I'm on a break right now. I forgot
Exactly.
about that.
It's all about the love right now. Okay, great. We're just a touch past 4. Cass, thank you so much for making the time to come and chat with us today.
Of course.
And now you know where to find her on Instagram and Twitter. So if people from this group want to get in touch with you, they should just email me and I'll send them your.
Yeah, and you can forward them my email, or
okay.
Type my email to them in whatever form.
All right, unmute yourselves and say thanks to Cass.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice to meet you guys.
You too.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.